Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? We got a breaking news right now. The news broke so fast. I forgot to put on my on-air light. That's how fast this news just broke. But we got some breaking news for you guys here. So we're going to let everybody catch up to this live real quick, and then we're going to get it going. It's unbelievable. We got some big news right now. Big news right now. So I'm going to just pull up some sources right here that Kevin Durant has just said that he will be returning to the Brooklyn Nets. Make sure y'all check in and let us know where you're coming from in the comment section. Hey, what's good? What's good? So we're only going to wait for about 1.5 minutes. If nobody catches up to the live by then it's too late. So we're just going to allow everybody to come to this live. We got some breaking news. Kevin Durant will be returning to the Brooklyn Nets, according to Adrian Wojnarowski. Let me just pin this here, pin this message to the top right here. Okay, we're going to pin that to the top. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, people keep asking me, what is my Twitter? I'm going to tell you guys my Twitter right now. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. We're going to start in 30 seconds. Whoever is not caught up to the live, we'll catch up to this live right now. So make sure you follow us on Twitter here. Oh, it's news, man. It's definitely news. This is to Keith Willis. This is news. Good morning. How y'all doing? We're going to give it about 10 more seconds. We're going to get into it. Make sure y'all hit the likes. And then we're going to get into this live real quick. Make sure y'all check in from Dominican Republic. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome in. Welcome in. Okay. All right. So let's just get into this news real quick. We don't want to stay on here too long because we got other content that we got planned coming out today. So I was literally just finishing my salad, which, oh, by the way, I absolutely hated on a diet. Was eating my salad. So I was actually trying to force my way through that salad and tuna, drinking my damn water. And then I picked on and I'm like, okay, let me just see what's on let me see what's on Twitter. I mean on Instagram. So I jump on Instagram and immediately I get this post with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Ben Simmons. And Adrian Wojnarowski says Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant has withdrawn his trade request and plans to start this season with Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be joking with me. So I went to his Twitter. Y'all can go to Adrian Wojnarowski's Twitter. And on Adrian Wojnarowski, he posted about, let me say, 36 minutes ago. He said, and it's funny enough, I'm just seeing this now. In the end, Kevin Durant and the Nets played out in a similar way to Kobe Bryant and the Lakers in 2007. The Kevin Durant trade discussions are over. The Nets say he's under contract for 4 years. So it looks like Kevin Durant will, in fact, be returning to the Brooklyn Nets this season. Now, let me tell you guys what's hilarious about this. We actually were planning a show for later on today where basically I was drawing a comparison between Kobe Bryant and KD. We already shot the video. We were actually working on that show. So I think that's funny. Now let's get to the news here. Kevin Durant is returning to the Brooklyn Nets. First of all, here are my initial thoughts to this. Number one, I think that this is the best case scenario. I think that Kevin Durant returning to the Nets is the best case scenario for Kevin Durant. That's the first thing that I think. Right now, the two main talking points around Kevin Durant right now is this. Number one, welcome in, you guys. The two major talking points around Kevin Durant is this. Number one, Kevin Durant cannot win a championship if he is not on a super team or if he's not playing with the Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry. That's the one chatter out there about Kevin Durant. He can't win without Steph. The second one is this. Ever since Kevin Durant requested to be traded from the Brooklyn Nets, a lot of people have been saying that Kevin Durant is somebody that runs away from challenges. Those are the two major talking points surrounding KD. And even though I supported his idea of leaving the Nets because I thought that the Nets were a mess, if we take my suggestion of him leaving versus what people already think about him, I think the best thing for Kevin Durant is to stay with the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Somebody just left a comment in the comment section. His name is Nasty Yoda. He said KD a clown. Now, what he just said is something that a lot of people already think about KD. They think that he's somebody that is mercurial, he is moody. One day he feels this way, the next day he feels the next way. What he just said is something that a lot of people think about Kevin Durant. They think he is unpredictable. They think that if Kevin Durant makes a decision, he may most likely change his mind for no apparent reason. Let me get into this. Let me get into the statement. Welcome in. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. We got that pinned to the top, and follow us on Twitter. Let me read this statement. We're getting this from Twitter here. Let me post it here so you guys can read it too. I'm going to post it in the comment section. So that's the Brooklyn Nets status. Basically, what they said is this. Let me read it. The following statement has been released by General Manager Sean Marks. Steve Nash and I, together with Joe Tsai, Clara Wu Tsai, met with Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman in Los Angeles yesterday. We have agreed to move forward with our partnership. We are focusing on basketball with one basketball goal in mind: build a lasting franchise to bring a championship to Brooklyn. So that was the statement that was put out via Adrian Wojnarowski from the Brooklyn Nets media page just 40 minutes ago. So it looks like for sure Kevin Durant will be returning. Now, if y'all remember, I believe it was over the weekend, we produced the show. Now, I don't know because it wasn't an easy bit of news to find. I don't know if they saw that on Undisputed because they covered it too in a very similar way that we covered it. I don't know if they saw it and they decided like, yo, you know what? We're not going to give them any props. But we covered a story. In that story, it was something based off of Trae Young's Instagram. Trae Young was working out in LA or in California, somewhere in California. He was working out with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. We did a show that basically said, based on everything that we've been hearing from the media, different reports, it would seem as if, based on what we've been hearing, that Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving no longer have a good relationship. If you listen to Skip Bayless went as far as saying that he believes that the relationship between Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, that bridge has been burned to the ground. But here you have a situation where you have KD and Kyrie Irving practicing together. Let me tell you guys what I think about this situation. First of all, I think KD already knew he was going to come back to the Nets. This is what I think. If you've been reading some of his latest social media posts, Kevin Durant has been saying, don't believe what you read. Don't believe what these people are saying in the media, X, Y, and Z. That's what KD's been saying. So to me, I think KD knew that he was going to return to the Nets. I think it's also one of the reasons that he was okay with Trae Young posting that picture on his Instagram. Why? Because sometimes if you're out and about with your friends and you're taking pictures, depending on your friend's personality, you're going to ask him, hey, is it cool if I post this picture? Especially with trade talks of Kevin Durant wanting to be traded. So I'm sure Trae Young must have spoken to KD like, yo, is it cool if I post this? Because, you know, if I post this and the media pick it up, they're going to start speculating. So I'm sure KD already knew that this news was going to come out. I think he already knew that. And I think Kyrie Irving already knew that. Now, let me tell you what I think this situation does for the Brooklyn Nets. In my honest opinion, I think that the Brooklyn Nets are not as bad as a lot of us probably think that they are based on how they lost in the NBA playoffs last season. I don't think they got a mixture of veterans and young players with Nick Claxton, They got what is it? They got Joe Harris, who's not a young player, but they got him. They got some other young pieces. You got some veterans and Kevin Durant. You got Seth Curry, who's a great shooter. You got Joe Harris, he's a great shooter. You got Kyrie Irving. They have a nice blend of talent. And if I'm being honest with you, I think that the Brooklyn Nets are good enough to at least compete in the Eastern Conference. I think going into this season, the Brooklyn Nets have an opportunity to be one of the top 4 seeds going into this season. Of course, you got the Milwaukee Bucks, you got the Boston Celtics, you got the Philadelphia 76ers. Then some people may say you got Miami, you got Brooklyn, you got some other teams maybe I'm not thinking about, but I believe that Brooklyn can be in the mix because after all, they do have arguably the best player in the world. They do have the best player in the world. Somebody said Russell, no Kyrie to LA. I don't think Kyrie Irving is going to LA. To your comment, I've been reading some articles where people are now saying that the Brooklyn Nets want to retain Kyrie Irving. And funny enough, those reports started to come out before this Kevin Durant news came out, that the Brooklyn Nets wanted to keep Kyrie Irving. I think Kyrie, Kevin Durant, and these guys sat down and they said to themselves, no, we're going to give it one more shot. And I think a lot of those Nets players have a lot to prove. I think that could be some added motivation that nobody's talking about. Let's talk about this. Number one, Kyrie Irving has a lot to prove. Why? Because Kyrie Irving is going to be playing for a contract this year. That's number one. Every NBA player heading into a contract season usually plays very, very well that season. So that's one thing. Kyrie Irving is going to be playing for his contract. Kyrie Irving is also going to be playing for his reputation, because the reputation out there is that Kyrie Irving is unreliable. So Kyrie has something to play for. Let's look at Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has everything to play for. If you guys know, or maybe you guys are aware, he was able to reach an agreement with the Philadelphia 76ers about a week or so ago to get back some of his money, right? So you got that. Then you got his reputation on the line. Last time we saw Ben Simmons on a basketball court, he didn't look too good in that series against the Atlanta Hawks. So Ben Simmons has something to play for. And based off of some of the reports, I don't know if it's true, but we're going to assume that it's true. Based off of some of the things, that Stephen A. Smith said when he ran into Ben Simmons, that Ben Simmons is focused on him. He's focused on having a bounce back year. I would think that Ben Simmons is highly motivated going into this season to prove a point. And then to Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, if we're being honest, forget about what he's saying, the God this, the God that, all of that stuff. Kevin Durant is somebody that listens to what people have to say. He responds to some of the comments that people have to say. And if we're being honest, I believe that Kevin Durant also has a lot to prove. Probably more than any of those cats, believe it or not. Why? Because the number one knock on Kevin Durant right now is what? He cannot win without Stephen Curry. He cannot win unless he's playing on a super team or he's playing with the Golden State Warriors. That's the first knock. And I'm sure that Kevin Durant is going to want to prove to a lot of people out there, like, wait a minute, I'm still Kevin freaking Durant. And when I'm on my A game, I'm arguably the best player in the world, or certainly in the Eastern Conference. So I think this is good news for Brooklyn Nets fans. I think it's also good news for Kevin Durant's reputation. This is great move. This is a great news. I think it's also good for NBA teams and owners. Nobody's talking about that. The fact of the matter is this. The best player in the world, arguably the best player in the world, and Kevin Durant, walked into his team owner's office and demanded a trade. And the team said, thank you very much for your request. We will take it into consideration and we'll get back to you. In the game of chicken, Joe Tsai and the Brooklyn Nets won. So The ownership won in this circumstance. KD wanted to be traded. Almost 2 months went by. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And now Kevin Durant found himself in a situation where he realized that the Nets were not going to be able to get fair value for him on the open market. And Kevin Durant had to rescind his trade request and say, I'm coming back. So the owners won on this particular deal right here. The Nets didn't walk away like losers. Although they were looking like a confused team, they won this. So Kevin Durant ended up having to come back after all, after making his trade request. So the Nets ownership, they won this game of chicken. Let me go through some of these comments real quick. Also, for the people coming in, the news is Kevin Durant has said that he wants to come back to the Brooklyn Nets. Also, make sure you follow us on Instagram. We have that pin up there. And make sure you follow us on Twitter. Let me post this right here. Let me post my Twitter right here. Yeah, Brooklyn looks good on paper. Brooklyn looks good on paper. Let me go through some of the comments. Lakers are officially stuck with Westbrook. Nah, he ain't better than Giannis. I'm not here to argue. I'm just saying that arguably Lakers are stuck with Westbrook. Yeah, I think I don't see how the Lakers are going to be able to move Russell Westbrook. The problem is not trading Russell Westbrook, giving him away. The problem is who's going to accept him. That's the problem. You can sell anything you want to sell. The challenge is somebody buying it from you, somebody feeling like that thing that you're trying to sell has some value. I never saw a scenario in which the Lakers will be able to trade for Kyrie, because although it would be a good fit for the Lakers, in what world would Kevin Durant want to play with Russell Westbrook? That's number one. Number two, why would the Brooklyn Nets want Russell Westbrook? They've already seen that movie. So I just don't see I don't see how they would want. Everybody on Brooklyn has something to prove. Yeah, everybody on the Brooklyn Nets has something to prove, and I think that this could be a good thing. I think if the Brooklyn Nets players go into this season refocused, they try to block out all the noise, especially Kevin Durant. They listen a lot to KD. Listens to a lot of the outside noise. If KD just focused on what he was doing and doesn't really pay attention to what people have to say, I think the Brooklyn Nets would be in a good position. And also, this is another opportunity for Kevin Durant to show that he's a leader and lead a group. What we need to see with the Nets is the Nets need to be healthy. They need to be healthy. They need to be mentally engaged. They may need to make one or two more moves. And also, I'm going to say something here that y'all may not hear somewhere else. Just because Kevin Durant has decided to come back does not mean that Steve Nash's coaching job should be safe. I want to make that clear. Just because Kevin Durant has said that he is coming back to the Nets does not mean that the Brooklyn Nets should take the pressure off of Steve Nash. Truth be told, Steve Nash is not one of the better coaches out there. If I'm the Brooklyn Nets, just because I got Kevin Durant to come back does not mean that I need to sit down and relax. And it doesn't mean that the Brooklyn Nets are not out there looking for a better coach. It doesn't mean that. It just means that they are siding. That they're siding? When they say siding with their staff, they didn't specify who. Just because they got KD doesn't mean that they're still going to keep Steve Nash. And we don't know if Kevin Durant and Joe Tsai, and when they had that meeting, we don't know if that was discussed. We don't know that KD said, okay, I'm coming back. No problem. I understand it's your team. But please, can you also look out there for coaches that may be better suited with more experience to coach this group? Because the fact of the matter still remains. Even if Kevin Durant comes back, even if all of these guys are refocused and their heads on their shoulders, it doesn't all of a sudden turn Steve Nash into a great X and O's guy. It doesn't. And I give you guys another reason why you shouldn't be surprised, even if Nash was in the meeting. Let me see. Was Steve Nash in the meeting? Let me see. Okay, even Steve Nash. Okay, Steve Nash was there, fine. But even if Steve Nash was there, it doesn't mean that his coaching job should be guaranteed. If y'all remember with the Cleveland Cavaliers, when LeBron James and the Cavs went into that season, the year when they fired David Fizdale and Ty, they actually had a winning record. It was when they got blown out to the Golden State Warriors that they fired him and promoted Tyronn Lue to the head coaching position. All I'm saying, I'm not saying that they're going to fire Steve Nash. I'm saying if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, you don't just sit down and relax. You don't. Because if you watch that first round series between them and the Boston Celtics, Steve Nash was not making any adjustments whatsoever. And I don't care how motivated Kevin Durant and these guys are, if you don't have a coach that is able to draw plays, make in-game adjustments in the playoffs, you will lose. Many great teams have lost series because of their inability to make adjustments. You hear it all the time. Even back in Kobe and Karl Malone and these guys. Go back and listen to the video why they lost. They weren't able to make certain adjustments. A lot of great teams with great players have lost series because they couldn't make adjustments. And ultimately, they lost. Even when Golden State won that first championship, putting Iguodala on LeBron and starting him, that was a coaching adjustment. Steve Nash and the coaching staff, Steve Kerr and the Warriors coaching staff saw something and they did something. Nick Nurse, when they were deciding to make certain adjustments, when they put Kawhi on, coaches are out there making adjustments. So if I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, although I'm excited to have Kevin Durant back, although I think the Brooklyn Nets have an opportunity, if they are healthy, to be a top 4 seed in the East, it doesn't mean that your championship is guaranteed. That's number one. Number two, I want to talk about Kyrie Irving for a second. There was a report out there at least a week ago or so, that Kyrie Irving, according to a report, I think he refuted it, but according to the report, Kyrie Irving wanted it in his contract that he wouldn't have to play 82 games. He would only have to play like 60-something games, and he wouldn't have to play back-to-backs. And quote unquote, it was inhumane or something like that. That was the report. Then Kyrie Irving put out a statement, but he didn't really deny it. He just said something else, that he didn't really definitively say that report wasn't true, but he put out a statement. Here's why I'm bringing this up. If any of you guys watching this video have ever been in a team situation, whether it is you're playing on a team in college or in school, or you're playing a sport, or you're doing a team project, whatever it is, if you've ever been in a team scenario, or maybe at work, whatever it is, and you have everybody on the same page except one or two people, if one person, especially a key person, is not on the same page with everybody else, it can cause the entire group to fail. Everybody needs to be on the same page, which means the Brooklyn Nets can ill afford to have a situation with Kyrie Irving where he has some of his moments. All of that stuff needs to be eliminated. We can't have any Kyrie Irving moments this season. I'm being serious. Because Kyrie Irving is a variable. That's number one. Number two, back to Kevin Durant. This is another opportunity for how Kevin Durant can lead a team and establish her. The other day, we produced a video and we were talking about Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. What we spoke about in that show was Kobe had an ability to hold his teammates accountable. And calling you out in practice, calling you out on the court during a game, Kobe Bryant held his teammates in check. He will call guys out, not because he hated them, but he was just telling them what they needed to hear in order. He said, the only person on his team I will listen to is Derek. So it wasn't like as if Kobe was a tyrant on the court. He was willing to hold guys accountable, but he was also willing to be held accountable by some of his teammates. If you go look at some of those pivotal finals games, there were games where Derek Fisher waved off Kobe. Kobe was signaling for the ball, and he waved them off. And in fact, a huge and-one play in the 2010 NBA Finals in Boston in Game 3 was when Derek Fisher was driving up the court. Kobe was open, and he waved them off, drove into the defense, and was fouled, I believe, by Kevin Garnett and Glenn Davis. And it worked. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing it up to say that KD this season cannot be afraid to call out his teammates if need be. If need be. And don't worry, we got a Kobe Bryant tribute video coming out later today. Y'all definitely don't want to miss that. We got a Kobe video dropping today. Y'all definitely don't want to miss. Anyway, so Kevin Durant can't be afraid to do that with Kyrie Irving. Here's the truth of it. When KD and Kyrie Irving, they were first teammates in year one, no one was doubting the fact that they were a very talented duo. But there was something that I noticed in some of those Brooklyn Nets games, especially late in games, that bothered me. It was something that Chris Broussard pointed out. It was something I believe Nick Wright pointed out, and it was something that I definitely noticed. Do you know what I noticed? I noticed that in late games, especially when games were close, and Kyrie Irving was the primary decision maker, I saw a lot of Russell Westbrook moments where there were multiple possessions when Kyrie Irving would come down the court and Kevin Durant would not touch the ball. Kyrie Irving would come down and shoot the ball 5-6 straight times, and KD will be standing there on the corner. Kevin Durant, who is clearly their best player, would be watching, and then at a certain point, KD would get fed. He would get fed up, and then he would signal and just grab the ball, and then he would go make it. That can't happen. I think it has to be clearly stated that Kevin Durant should be the number one option every single night. Then you have Kyrie. One of the things I like about Paul George, and we'll wrap it up here. One of the things I like about Paul George was that when he joined the Clippers, Paul George came out and said, Kawhi Leonard is our best player and he's our leader. They immediately solved that problem. There was no, Paul George would not force the issue over Kawhi Leonard and end the games. He wouldn't. And I think that that's something that we got to take notice of. And if the Brooklyn Nets know, back to the team owner and their leadership, if they know that Kevin Durant is not the type of player to get in somebody's face, get in a teammate's face, they better make sure they go out there and get a coach that will. They better make sure they get a coach that will. If Kawhi's not the type of guy that will be calling out his teammates, guess who is? Their head coach in Tyronn Lue. I saw Ty Lue tell LeBron James, sit the F down. That was Ty Lue. Said that to LeBron, one of the top 5, 10, whatever greatest players of all. He told that to LeBron. So I hope the Brooklyn Nets know that they're going to have to find a leader. It's either going to be KD or it got to be the coach, but it got to be somebody because that team still has no leader, in my personal opinion. So these are my thoughts. Real quick before we let y'all go, as I said before, we got a Kobe Bryant video dropping today, a video that I think is going to spark a lot of conversation on the channel. It's a pretty long one, so you guys want to get your popcorn ready for that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So we definitely got that video out there. Again, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, we got that pinned to the top. And also make sure you follow us on Twitter. So be on the lookout for those videos later on in the channel today. Once again, we appreciate that. And we catch y'all on the next episode. Have a good one. We catch y'all later. Have a good one. Peace. Peace.